The arena roars with excitement. Spotlights illuminate the wrestling ring as thousands of fans cheer, their voices blending into a deafening symphony. For most, this is entertainment at its finest, a mix of athleticism and drama. But beyond the spectacle lies a hidden reality filled with pain, sacrifice, and relentless pressure. In the center of this world was Bertha Faye, a name that still echoes in wrestling lore. Yet, behind the flashy persona and exaggerated antics stood Rhonda Singh, a woman whose story was both inspiring and heartbreaking. Wrestling wasn't just a job for Rhonda. It was a calling that shaped every aspect of her life. From an early age, she dreamed of stepping into the spotlight. But the path to stardom was brutal. In the male-dominated world of professional wrestling, women like Bertha Faye were often reduced to stereotypes. For Rhonda, breaking through those barriers meant enduring both physical and emotional trials that few could understand. Her character, a flamboyant villain designed to draw laughter and boos, masked the deep insecurities and struggles she faced in real life. This documentary explores the highs and lows of Bertha Faye's career. We'll trace her journey from a small-town girl with big dreams to a global wrestling star. Along the way, we'll uncover the sacrifices she made, the adversities she overcame, and the legacy she left behind. Through emotional storytelling and powerful testimonials, we aim to reveal the woman behind the character, a trailblazer who reshaped perceptions of female wrestlers. This is the story of Rhonda Singh, better known to the world as Bertha Faye. Rhonda Singh was born on February 21st, 1961, in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, a city known for its rich wrestling heritage. From the very beginning, her environment played a crucial role in shaping her destiny. Wrestling was a staple in Calgary, with legendary names like Stu Hart and his famous Hart Dungeon training center putting the city on the map. As a child, Rhonda found herself captivated by the spectacle of professional wrestling. The larger-than-life personas, the dramatic storylines, and the roaring crowds became a source of fascination. She often dreamed of being in that ring, under those bright lights, performing for thousands. But Rhonda's childhood wasn't without its challenges. Growing up, she struggled with self-esteem and body image. She was naturally bigger and taller than many of her peers, which made her a target for ridicule. The hurtful comments and teasing left emotional scars, but they also ignited a fire within her, a determination to prove her worth. Wrestling became both an escape and a source of inspiration. She admired wrestlers who exuded strength and confidence, imagining herself in their shoes. One of her earliest influences was the fabulous Moolah, a dominant figure in women's wrestling. Moolah's success showed Rhonda that women could command respect and make a name for themselves in a tough industry. Despite her growing passion for wrestling, Rhonda faced significant opposition from her family. Her parents wanted her to pursue a more traditional path, fearing that the wrestling world would be too harsh for their daughter. But Rhonda was undeterred. In her teenage years, she began training in secret, determined to prove she had what it took to become a wrestler. Her journey was anything but easy. The physical demands of training pushed her to the brink, and as one of the few women in the local wrestling scene, she had to work twice as hard to earn respect. It wasn't just wrestling that shaped Rhonda's outlook on life. Growing up in a working-class family instilled in her a strong work ethic. She often helped out with household responsibilities, learning the value of perseverance and resilience. Her family's struggles taught her to be resourceful, a trait that would serve her well in the grueling world of professional wrestling. However, there were moments of deep loneliness. The isolation she felt due to her size and ambitions weighed heavily on her. Wrestling became her way of coping, a way to channel her frustrations and insecurities into something powerful. During these formative years, Rhonda's determination to succeed only grew stronger. She sought out mentors who could guide her through the challenging path ahead. One of the key figures in her early development was Mildred Burke, a pioneer in women's wrestling who emphasized the importance of mental toughness. Burke's stories of overcoming adversity resonated with Ronda, giving her a blueprint for survival in a cutthroat industry. Ronda also began to study wrestling techniques, spending hours analyzing matches and perfecting her craft. She knew that to succeed, she would need to be more than just physically strong. She had to become a storyteller in the ring, someone who could captivate audiences with both skill and charisma. As Ronda entered her early 20s, she made a life-changing decision. She would fully commit to a career in wrestling, with limited opportunities for women in North American wrestling at the time. She set her sights on Japan, where women's wrestling, or Joshi Puroresu, was gaining momentum. Ronda saw this as her chance to learn from the best and elevate her skills to a new level. It was a bold move that required immense courage, but Ronda was ready. She knew that Japan would not only test her physically, but also force her to confront her deepest fears and insecurities. In 1979, Ronda left her home in Calgary and embarked on a journey to Japan. The culture shock was immediate. Everything, from the language to the wrestling style, was unfamiliar and overwhelming. But Ronda thrived under pressure. The intense training regimens and high expectations pushed her to new heights. Wrestling in Japan was brutal and unrelenting, but it also provided Ronda with a sense of belonging. For the first time, she felt truly seen and respected for her abilities. During her time in Japan, Ronda underwent a transformation, not just as a wrestler, but as a person. She adopted a more disciplined mindset, learning to control her emotions and focus on her goals. The Japanese wrestling scene taught her that success was not about flashy moves or gimmicks, but about storytelling, psychology, and connecting with the audience on a deeper level. Ronda absorbed these lessons like a sponge, refining her style and preparing herself for the challenges that lay ahead. The experiences of Ronda's early life and formative years set the foundation for her future success. They also instilled in her a profound sense of empathy. Having faced bullying and rejection, she developed a deep compassion for others who felt out of place. This empathy would later become one of her greatest strengths, both inside and outside the ring. But for now, she was focused on one thing: making her mark in the wrestling world. No matter the cost, the stage was set. Ronda Singh was no longer just a dreamer from Calgary. She was becoming a force to be reckoned with, a woman on the cusp of greatness. Little did she know, however, that the road ahead would be filled with both triumphs and tragedies that would forever define her legacy. After her transformative experience in Japan, Ronda Singh returned to North America with renewed confidence and a determination to make her mark. She had trained under some of the toughest conditions imaginable, honing both her physical prowess and psychological understanding of wrestling. But despite her skill and experience, breaking into the North American wrestling scene was far from easy. Women's wrestling was often treated as a novelty act, with promoters viewing female wrestlers as sideshows rather than serious athletes. Ronda would have to fight tooth and nail to prove she deserved a place in the spotlight. Her first opportunities came in the form of small independent promotions, where she wrestled under various aliases. At first, the crowds were indifferent, unsure what to make of her imposing presence and powerful moves. But Ronda knew how to connect with an audience, a skill she had refined during her time in Japan. By incorporating elements of both strength and storytelling, she slowly won over fans and gained a reputation as a fierce competitor. Promoters began to notice her growing popularity, though they often tried to mold her into characters that fit stereotypical narratives, either as a monster heel villain or as comic relief. It was a struggle to maintain her authenticity in an industry that prioritized entertainment over respect. During this time, Ronda's personal resilience was constantly tested. The wrestling business was notoriously harsh on newcomers, and she faced frequent rejection and exploitation. Her size made her a target for cruel jokes and criticism from both male and female colleagues. Yet, rather than letting it break her spirit, Ronda used these experiences as motivation. She saw herself as a representative for all women who had been marginalized, and she was determined to carve out a space where female wrestlers could be taken seriously. Her breakthrough moment came when she was signed by Stampede Wrestling, a promotion run by the legendary Hart family in her hometown of Calgary, working with Stu Hart and his sons, including Bret the Hitman Hart and Owen Hart. Ronda found herself surrounded by some of the best minds in the business. The Harts recognized her potential and gave her opportunities to shine, though she still had to deal with the pressures of performing at a high level in front of packed arenas. Wrestling in Stampede was both an honor and a trial by fire. The fans were known for being vocal and unforgiving, and Ronda had to prove herself every time she stepped into the ring. Under the guidance of the Hart family, Ronda refined her in-ring persona and developed a signature wrestling style that blended power and agility. She adopted a ring name that would stick with her for the next phase of her career, Monster Ripper. As Monster Ripper, she played an intimidating, no-nonsense powerhouse who dominated her opponents. The character was a far cry from the real Ronda, who was known among friends as warm and empathetic. However, the role allowed her to tap into her frustrations and channel them into performances that captivated audiences. Monster Ripper quickly became a top draw in Stampede Wrestling and other regional promotions. Her fearsome presence and brutal wrestling style earned her respect, even from those who had doubted her abilities. Ronda began to realize that success in wrestling wasn't just about winning matches. It was about creating moments that fans would remember for a lifetime. Whether she was delivering a devastating powerbomb or taunting the crowd with a fierce glare, she knew how to leave an impression. Despite her growing success, Ronda remained grounded. She continued to face criticism about her appearance, with some promoters pressuring her to lose weight or adopt a more marketable look. But Ronda refused to compromise who she was. She understood that her uniqueness was both a challenge and an advantage. By embracing her identity, she became a symbol of strength for fans who felt out of place or misunderstood. As her reputation grew, Ronda received an offer that would change her life, an opportunity to compete for All Japan Women's Pro Wrestling, AJW, one of the most prestigious wrestling promotions in the world. Returning to Japan felt like coming full circle. But this time, she was no longer an inexperienced rookie. Monster Ripper was now a force to be reckoned with, and the Japanese audience welcomed her back with both curiosity and admiration. In AJW, Ronda faced some of the toughest competitors of her career, including legends like Bull Nakano and Aya Kong. The matches were brutal and physically demanding, often lasting over 30 minutes with no breaks. But Ronda thrived under these conditions, delivering performances that earned her multiple championships and a loyal fan base. Her matches were praised for their intensity and storytelling, with Ronda often playing the unstoppable antagonist who pushed her opponents to their limits. The experience of wrestling in Japan solidified Ronda's place in the global wrestling scene. She had proven that she could not only compete with the best, but also elevate the status of women's wrestling through her sheer presence and talent. However, the demanding schedule and physical toll began to wear on her. Wrestling was an unforgiving business, and injuries were an inevitable part of the job. Ronda pushed through the pain, driven by a deep sense of duty to her fans and her craft. As the 1980s came to a close, Ronda faced a difficult decision. She had achieved great success in Japan, but opportunities in North America remained limited for female wrestlers. The wrestling landscape was changing, with major promotions like World Wrestling Federation (WWF), focusing heavily on male superstars and relegating women's matches to undercard attractions. Ronda knew that if she wanted to continue her journey, she would have to adapt. In 1995, she signed with the WWF, rebranding herself under a new character, Bertha Faye. This move marked a new chapter in her career, one filled with both opportunity and immense challenges. The WWF was a global phenomenon, with millions of viewers tuning in each week. For Ronda, it was a chance to reach a wider audience than ever before. However, the transition was far from smooth. The WWF creative team envisioned Bertha Faye as a comedic character, playing up her size and appearance for laughs. It was a stark contrast to the fearsome monster Ripper persona she had built her career on. Ronda struggled with the new role, but tried to make the best of it. She poured her heart into the performances, determined to entertain fans even if it meant embracing the more absurd aspects of the character. Bertha Faye became a memorable figure in the WWF's women's division, feuding with stars like Alundra Blaze Medusa. Yet, behind the scenes, Ronda grappled with feelings of frustration and self-doubt. The demands of the character often clashed with her desire to be taken seriously as an athlete. Despite these challenges, Ronda's journey was far from over. She continued to inspire fans around the world with her resilience and determination. The foundation she built during these early years would serve as a powerful reminder of the sacrifices and triumphs that define a wrestling career. The road to greatness was never easy, but for Ronda Singh, it was always worth fighting for. By the mid-1990s, Ronda Singh, now known to millions as Bertha Faye, had entered the spotlight of the World Wrestling Federation, WWF. For many wrestlers, reaching the WWF was the pinnacle of success, a chance to perform on the biggest stage in professional wrestling. However, this stage came with both opportunities and challenges that would shape Ronda's career and legacy. Bertha Faye debuted in the WWF with a bold and colorful persona, complete with loud costumes, bright makeup, and an exaggerated, over-the-top attitude. She was introduced as a comedic heel, designed to make audiences laugh and jeer. Her character was paired with Harvey Whippleman, a sleazy, bumbling manager who played the role of her boyfriend. Together, they were portrayed as a mismatched, dysfunctional duo meant to entertain fans through humor and antics. This portrayal stood in stark contrast to the serious, dominating presence Ronda had crafted as Monster Ripper. For Ronda, adapting to the new character was both creatively stifling and emotionally taxing. The WWF's creative team leaned heavily into stereotypes, often focusing on Bertha's weight and appearance for comedic effect. Segments and promos frequently involved fat-shaming jokes, which were meant to draw laughs but left Ronda feeling humiliated. Despite the discomfort, Ronda remained professional, knowing that wrestling was as much about performance as it was athleticism. Despite the character's comedic undertones, Bertha Faye was also positioned as a legitimate competitor in the women's division. In SummerSlam 1995, Bertha achieved one of the biggest milestones of her career by defeating Alundra Blaze Medusa to become the WWF Women's Champion. The match showcased Ronda's strength and technical ability, reminding fans that beneath the flamboyant character was a serious and skilled wrestler. However, the victory was bittersweet. The women's division was not a priority for the WWF at the time, and the promotion did little to build meaningful storylines or rivalries for female performers. Ronda's reign as champion was short-lived, lasting only a few months before Alundra Blaze regained the title. Behind the scenes, tensions were rising within the company regarding the direction of the women's division. With limited resources and screen time allocated to female wrestlers, Ronda struggled to maintain momentum. She voiced her concerns to management, advocating for better opportunities and respect for the women's division. But her efforts were largely dismissed. The WWF's focus remained on its male superstars, with women often relegated to filler matches or comedic skits. Despite these setbacks, Ronda found ways to connect with fans. Many saw through the comedic gimmick and appreciated her talent and charisma. She received letters from fans who admired her for embracing her uniqueness and standing tall in an industry that often marginalized women who didn't fit traditional beauty standards. For young girls and women who struggled with body image, Bertha Faye became an unlikely role model, a symbol of self-acceptance and resilience. During this period, Ronda also built close friendships with several of her colleagues. Alundra Blaze, her on-screen rival, became one of her strongest allies. In interviews, Alundra praised Ronda's professionalism and dedication, describing her as a trailblazer who paved the way for future generations of female wrestlers. Ronda's kindness and empathy made her a beloved figure in the locker room, even among those who didn't share screen time with her. However, the mounting frustrations of creative limitations and poor booking began to take their toll on Ronda's mental health. Wrestling had always been her passion, but the constant scrutiny of her appearance and the lack of meaningful opportunities chipped away at her confidence. She began to feel trapped by the Bertha Faye persona, a caricature that didn't reflect who she truly was. Privately, she confided in friends about her struggles, expressing fears that her career was stagnating. As the WWF continued to shift its priorities, the women's division was eventually disbanded in late 1995. Ronda's contract was not renewed, and she found herself at a crossroads. The sudden loss of her platform was devastating. Wrestling had been her life for over a decade, and the thought of stepping away from the ring was unthinkable. However, Ronda was determined to keep fighting. She returned to the independent circuit, hoping to reinvent herself and recapture the magic of her earlier career. The independent wrestling scene welcomed her back with open arms. As Monster Ripper, she once again commanded respect and fear from opponents and fans alike. Her matches were intense and hard-hitting, a reminder of the powerhouse wrestler who had once dominated in Japan. Promoters praised her for her professionalism and work ethic, often booking her as a main event attraction. Ronda thrived in this environment, where she had more creative freedom to shape her character and storylines. Throughout the late 1990s, Ronda traveled extensively, wrestling in promotions across North America, Japan, and Mexico. In Mexico, she became a star in Consejo Mundial de Lucha Libre, CMLL, where fans admired her for her toughness and charisma. The international exposure reignited her passion for wrestling, but the physical toll on her body was becoming increasingly difficult to ignore. Years of grueling matches and injuries had left her with chronic pain, and she often wrestled through severe discomfort. Despite these challenges, Ronda continued to mentor younger wrestlers, sharing her knowledge and experience with those who looked up to her. Many of these wrestlers would later credit her with helping them navigate the harsh realities of the wrestling business. Ronda took pride in being a role model, knowing that her journey had the power to inspire others. As her career progressed, Ronda began to reflect more deeply on her legacy. She understood that while her time in the WWF was marked by frustrations, it had also opened doors for future generations of female wrestlers. The industry was slowly evolving, with promotions like World Championship Wrestling (WCW) and Extreme Championship Wrestling (ECW) beginning to feature women in more prominent roles. Ronda's contributions were a crucial part of that evolution, even if she didn't always receive the recognition she deserved. By the early 2000s, Ronda decided to scale back her wrestling commitments. The years of physical and emotional strain had taken their toll, and she recognized the need to prioritize her health and well-being. However, Her passion for wrestling never faded. She occasionally made appearances at wrestling events and conventions, reconnecting with fans who remembered her iconic matches and larger-than-life persona. For Rhonda Singh, the rise to fame was a journey filled with triumphs and setbacks, joy and heartbreak. She had achieved more than she ever imagined, breaking barriers and leaving a lasting impact on the wrestling world. Yet, the most important lesson she carried with her was one of resilience. No matter the obstacles, Rhonda had always found a way to rise again, stronger, wiser, and more determined than ever. The story of Bertha Faye was far from over. Her legacy continued to inspire, and her journey served as a testament to the power of perseverance in the face of overwhelming odds. For Rhonda Singh, fame came with a heavy price. Beneath the bright lights and roaring crowds, she faced a series of personal and professional challenges that few people saw. Wrestling had given her a platform to showcase her talent, but it had also subjected her to intense scrutiny and emotional turmoil. The demands of the industry, coupled with societal pressures about her appearance, took a significant toll on her mental and physical well-being. One of the most pervasive struggles Rhonda faced was body image and self-worth. From an early age, she had been self-conscious about her size, growing up in a society that valued thinness and beauty standards that excluded women like her. Rhonda often felt like an outsider. Wrestling, with its emphasis on larger-than-life characters, gave her a place to shine, but it also amplified those insecurities. Promoters frequently pigeonholed her into roles that exaggerated her physical features, using her size as a comedic or threatening element rather than recognizing her athletic skill. In the WWF, these pressures intensified. The creative team often booked her character, Bertha Faye, to be the punchline of jokes. Fat shaming was a recurring theme in her segments, both on-screen and behind the scenes. While Rhonda maintained a professional demeanor, the constant ridicule chipped away at her self-confidence. Privately, she expressed frustration to close friends, feeling that she was being reduced to a stereotype rather than being celebrated for her accomplishments. Despite these feelings, she continued to perform, knowing that millions of fans were watching and expecting her to deliver an entertaining show. The grueling schedule of professional wrestling added another layer of difficulty. Rhonda spent most of her life on the road, traveling from city to city with little time to rest or recover. Wrestling matches, while scripted in terms of outcomes, were physically punishing. Every night, she risked injury as she executed high-impact moves and took falls that strained her body. Over the years, Rhonda suffered from chronic pain, including back, knee, and shoulder injuries. Like many wrestlers of her era, she often wrestled through the pain, relying on minimal medical attention and painkillers to keep going. The physical strain was accompanied by emotional isolation. Life on the road left little time for relationships or a stable home life. Rhonda's career consumed her, and as she climbed the ranks of the wrestling world, she found herself increasingly alone. While she had strong friendships with fellow wrestlers, the nature of the business made it difficult to trust others fully. Wrestling was a competitive and often cutthroat industry, with rivalries both real and scripted, creating an atmosphere of tension. Rhonda learned to guard her emotions, projecting strength even when she felt vulnerable. Financial struggles also became a recurring issue. Despite her years of hard work, Rhonda, like many wrestlers, faced financial instability due to the nature of wrestling contracts. In the 1990s, female wrestlers were paid significantly less than their male counterparts, even if they performed just as often. The lack of long-term financial security added stress to Rhonda's already difficult life. She worried about her future, particularly as her body began to wear down from years of physical abuse. Wrestling had been her livelihood for so long that the thought of life outside the ring was both frightening and uncertain. Ronda's struggles with mental health became more pronounced in the later years of her career. The combination of physical pain, body image issues, and professional frustrations led to periods of depression. She questioned her place in the wrestling world, wondering if her contributions were truly valued. Despite these internal battles, she continued to push forward, motivated by her love for the fans and the hope that things would eventually improve. Wrestling had always been her dream, and she was determined not to let the challenges defeat her. One of the lowest points in Ronda's journey came after her departure from the WWF. Without the visibility and platform she had grown accustomed to, she struggled to adjust to life outside of the mainstream spotlight. The wrestling industry was evolving, and opportunities for women, especially those who didn't fit the emerging diva image, were limited. Ronda worked for various independent promotions, but the financial rewards were minimal. She also experienced feelings of abandonment from an industry that seemed to move on without her. However, Ronda found solace in mentorship. As a veteran of the wrestling business, she took it upon herself to guide younger wrestlers who were just starting out. Many of these women admired her for her toughness and perseverance. Ronda became a source of inspiration, sharing hard-earned wisdom about surviving in a male-dominated industry. Her mentorship gave her a renewed sense of purpose, reminding her that her legacy extended beyond championships and on-screen personas. Ronda also began to focus on her personal growth and healing. She sought therapy to address the long-standing insecurities and traumas that had haunted her throughout her career. Through counseling, she learned to embrace her true self, recognizing that her worth was not defined by others' perceptions. Slowly, she began to rebuild her self-esteem, finding strength in the very qualities that had once made her feel different. Despite the progress she made, Ronda's battles were not over. In the early 2000s, her health began to deteriorate due to the cumulative effects of years in the ring. She was diagnosed with several chronic conditions, including diabetes and heart issues. These health problems were exacerbated by the physical trauma her body had endured. Ronda faced these challenges with the same determination that had defined her career. But the reality of her declining health was undeniable. In her final years, Ronda continued to make occasional appearances at wrestling events and fan conventions. She cherished the moments when fans would approach her to share how much her career had meant to them. Many spoke about how she had inspired them to embrace their own uniqueness and face life's challenges with courage. These interactions reminded Ronda of the profound impact she had made. Even if her journey had been filled with hardship, through all the struggles, Ronda Singh never gave up. She remained a fighter until the very end, determined to live life on her own terms. Her story is a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, the ability to endure pain, rejection, and loss while still finding moments of joy and triumph. In the face of overwhelming odds, Ronda had carved out a legacy that would inspire generations of wrestlers and fans alike. The road was never easy, but for Ronda, it was always worth traveling. Her struggles, while deeply personal, became a powerful reminder of the importance of perseverance and self-acceptance, despite the challenges and personal struggles she faced. Ronda Singh had many moments of triumph that defined her legacy in the world of professional wrestling. These peak moments were not only milestones in her career, but also key moments that would leave a lasting impression on fans and future generations of wrestlers. They highlighted her resilience, strength, and ability to shine despite the odds stacked against her. One of the greatest highlights of Ronda's career was her dominance as Monster Ripper in All Japan Women's Pro Wrestling (AJW). In the highly competitive and physically intense world of Japanese women's wrestling, Ronda became a top star, earning multiple championship titles. The Japanese audience admired her for her raw power and unmatched intensity in the ring. Her matches with legends like Bull Nakano, Aya Kong, and Manami Toyota were brutal, hard-hitting spectacles that showcase her ability to both dish out and endure punishment. These matches often told stories of strength and endurance, with Ronda playing the role of an unstoppable force that challenged her opponents to push beyond their limits. Her performances in Japan were instrumental in raising the global profile of women's wrestling. At a time when women's wrestling was often dismissed as a sideshow in North America, Japan treated it as a serious sport. Ronda's success in Japan helped pave the way for more international opportunities, breaking barriers for women who sought to be seen as legitimate athletes rather than mere entertainers. Another peak moment in Ronda's career came during her feud with Alundra Blaze Medusa in the World Wrestling Federation, WWF. Although the WWF Women's Division was poorly supported by management, Ronda and Alundra worked tirelessly to deliver memorable matches. Their rivalry culminated in Ronda's victory at SummerSlam 1995, where she defeated Alundra to win the WWF Women's Championship. This moment marked a significant achievement in Ronda's career, as she had reached the top of the largest wrestling promotion in the world. For fans watching at the time, it was a moment of shock and awe to see the flamboyant, larger-than-life Bertha Faye emerge victorious on such a grand stage. Despite the short reign that followed, Ronda's title victory carried symbolic weight. It was a reminder that even under the constraints of a comedic gimmick, her skill and determination could not be ignored. The image of Ronda hoisting the championship belt high above her head became a defining visual of her time in the WWF, solidifying her place in wrestling history. Throughout her career, Ronda was known for her ability to connect with audiences on a deep emotional level. Whether she played the role of a fearsome monster or a comedic villain, she had a presence that drew people in. Fans appreciated her authenticity, sensing that behind the theatrics was a woman who had fought hard for her place in the spotlight. Her story resonated particularly with those who had faced discrimination or body image issues. Ronda's refusal to conform to societal expectations made her a role model for many, especially young women who saw themselves reflected in her journey. Ronda's impact extended beyond the ring through her mentorship and advocacy. As a veteran of the business, she took pride in mentoring up-and-coming female wrestlers, offering guidance and encouragement to those navigating the challenges of the industry. Wrestlers like Bull Nakano and Alundra Blaze spoke highly of Ronda's generosity and wisdom, crediting her with helping them develop both professionally and personally. She emphasized the importance of mental toughness, storytelling, and maintaining a strong sense of self in an industry that often tried to break people down. In addition to her direct influence on other wrestlers, Ronda played a role in changing perceptions of women's wrestling. Her success in promotions around the world demonstrated that women could be both physically dominant and emotionally compelling performers. She was part of a larger movement that sought to elevate women's wrestling to the same level of respect and prestige as men's wrestling. Though progress was slow, Ronda's contributions laid the groundwork for future generations of female wrestlers who would continue to push for greater opportunities and recognition. One of Ronda's greatest legacies is the way she inspired body positivity and self-acceptance. In a world that often placed unrealistic expectations on women to be thin and conventionally attractive, Ronda stood tall as a symbol of empowerment. She showed that strength, talent, and charisma mattered far more than fitting into a narrow mold of beauty. Fans who struggle with their own insecurities found comfort and inspiration in her story. Ronda's journey taught them that success and happiness were possible, even in the face of constant judgment. As the 2000s progressed, wrestling promotions began to shift toward greater inclusion of diverse body types and personalities. While the diva era of wrestling still emphasized glamour and sex appeal, Trailblazers like Ronda had planted the seeds for change. By the 2010s, wrestling promotions such as WWE and AEW began to embrace a wider variety of female wrestlers, many of whom cited Ronda Singh and other pioneers as inspirations. In interviews and documentaries about her life, wrestling historians have emphasized Ronda's significance as both a performer and a person. Jim Cornette, a well-known wrestling manager and historian, once described Ronda as a force of nature who could command an audience's attention like few others. He praised her ability to make even the most skeptical fans believe in the stories she told inside the ring. Similarly, Dave Meltzer, a respected wrestling journalist, highlighted her success in multiple wrestling markets as a testament to her versatility and skill. Despite her passing in 2001, Ronda Singh's legacy lives on through her fans, her peers, and the wrestlers she inspired. Her story is a reminder that greatness is not defined solely by championships or accolades. It is defined by the ability to persevere, to uplift others, and to leave an indelible mark on the world. Ronda's journey was one of courage, resilience, and hope, a testament to the power of believing in oneself even when the world tries to tear you down. In wrestling lore, the name Bertha Faye may evoke laughter and nostalgia, but the name Ronda Singh evokes something far more profound, a legacy of strength, empowerment, and the enduring spirit of a true trailblazer. Her peak moments in the ring may have been fleeting, but her impact will resonate for generations to come. As Ronda Singh entered the later years of her career, the road became increasingly difficult. Years of physically demanding matches, emotional strain, and mounting health issues began to catch up with her. The same industry that had once celebrated her as a star now offered fewer opportunities, particularly for women who no longer fit the youth-centric image that promotions sought to market. Ronda found herself at a crossroads, unsure of how to move forward as her wrestling career began to slow down. The challenges Ronda faced during this period were both physical and psychological. Chronic injuries plagued her daily life. Her knees, back, and shoulders bore the scars of countless matches, and the pain had become a constant companion. Like many wrestlers of her generation, she had pushed through injuries in her prime, often foregoing proper medical treatment for the sake of maintaining her career. Now, those untreated wounds were catching up with her, limiting her mobility and forcing her to rethink her future in the ring. In addition to physical pain, Ronda struggled with mental health challenges, including depression and anxiety. The wrestling world had always been her greatest passion, but it was also a source of deep emotional trauma. The pressures of maintaining a larger-than-life persona, coupled with the body shaming and ridicule she endured during her WWF run, left lasting scars on her self-esteem. Ronda had always carried a sense of isolation, and as her career declined, those feelings intensified. Wrestling had defined her identity for so long that the prospect of leaving it behind was terrifying. Financial instability added to her difficulties. Despite her years of success, Ronda, like many wrestlers, had not accumulated significant wealth. The wrestling industry in the 1980s and 1990s did not provide long-term financial security for most performers, particularly women. Contracts were often short-term and heavily favored promoters, leaving wrestlers without pensions or healthcare benefits. With her physical health deteriorating, Ronda worried about how she would support herself in the years ahead. In an effort to keep her career alive, Ronda continued to wrestle on the independent circuit, where she reprised her role as Monster Ripper. Though these matches lacked the large audiences and production values of her WWF and Japanese wrestling days, they gave her the opportunity to stay connected to the sport she loved. Fans who remembered her from her glory days still showed up to see her perform, and their admiration provided some solace during a challenging period. However, the grueling travel schedule and physical toll of wrestling became increasingly difficult to manage. Despite the hardships, Ronda found moments of joy and purpose through mentorship and community engagement. She began attending wrestling conventions and fan meet and greets, where she connected with fans who shared how much her career had meant to them. Many told her that her strength and confidence had inspired them to overcome their own struggles with body image and self-acceptance. These interactions reminded Ronda that her legacy extended beyond championships and storylines. She had become a beacon of hope for those who felt marginalized or misunderstood. Ronda also devoted more time to mentoring younger wrestlers, sharing the hard-earned lessons she had learned throughout her career. She emphasized the importance of mental resilience, advising aspiring performers to stay true to themselves and not let the industry's harshness destroy their self-worth. Her advice resonated with many, and she became a respected figure in the wrestling community. Wrestlers who had looked up to her, such as Bull Nakano and Aya Kong, spoke about the impact Ronda had on their careers and their determination to carry her legacy forward. However, the road ahead grew darker as Ronda's health continued to decline. She was diagnosed with diabetes and heart disease, conditions that were exacerbated by years of physical strain and the psychological stress she had endured. Her declining health limited her ability to work, and she faced increasing financial pressure. The wrestling community rallied to support her, with colleagues and fans organizing benefit events to help cover her medical expenses. In her final interviews, Ronda reflected on her life and career with a mixture of pride and sadness. She spoke candidly about the highs and lows of the wrestling business, acknowledging both the joy it had brought her and the pain it had caused. Despite the hardships, she expressed gratitude for the opportunities she had been given and the fans who had supported her throughout the years. Wrestling had been her dream, and while it had not always been kind to her, she remained deeply connected to it. In 2001, at the age of 40, Ronda Singh passed away from complications related to her health conditions. Her death sent shockwaves through the wrestling world, with fans and colleagues mourning the loss of a true trailblazer. Tributes poured in from around the globe, honoring her contributions to the sport and her resilience in the face of adversity. Many wrestling promotions held moments of silence in her memory, and wrestlers who had worked with her shared stories of her kindness, strength, and dedication. Ronda's passing marked the end of an era, but her legacy endured. The challenges she faced highlighted the need for better support systems for wrestlers, particularly in terms of healthcare and financial security. Her story also inspired discussions about body image and the treatment of women in professional wrestling. Promotions began to slowly move toward more inclusive and respectful portrayals of female wrestlers, though there was still much progress to be made. In death, Ronda Singh became a symbol of both the triumphs and tragedies of the wrestling world. Her journey was a testament to the power of perseverance and the importance of staying true to oneself in the face of overwhelming odds. Though her time on this earth was cut short, her impact on wrestling and on the lives of those she inspired would continue to be felt for generations. As Ronda Singh's health declined in the early 2000s, her wrestling career came to a close. For a woman who had spent most of her life in the ring, stepping away from the sport was a painful but necessary decision. The physical toll of years of wrestling had left her body in a fragile state. Chronic pain, heart disease, and diabetes were now part of her daily reality, forcing her to reevaluate how she would live the rest of her life. These final moments in Ronda's journey were filled with both reflection and reconnection as she came to terms with her legacy and found new sources of strength outside of wrestling. Despite her physical ailments, Ronda never lost her fighting spirit. She made occasional appearances at wrestling conventions, where she was greeted by fans who had followed her career from the beginning. These moments of recognition and appreciation gave her a sense of peace. Fans would share heartfelt stories of how her strength and resilience had inspired them. Some described how seeing someone like Ronda succeed in wrestling gave them the confidence to embrace their own differences. Others spoke of how her matches and persona had brought joy to their lives during difficult times. These stories reminded Ronda that her journey had mattered in ways she had never fully realized. While Ronda found comfort in these fan interactions, she continued to grapple with the personal sacrifices she had made. Wrestling had consumed much of her life, leaving little room for long-term relationships or a stable home life. Now, as she faced the realities of her health, she felt the weight of those sacrifices more than ever. However, she took solace in the friendships she had formed within the wrestling community. Colleagues like Medusa, Alundra Blaze, and Bull Nakano reached out to offer support, helping her navigate the challenges of retirement and health management. One of the most emotional moments in Ronda's final years came during a wrestling tribute event organized in her honor. Several wrestlers she had worked with throughout her career gathered to celebrate her contributions to the sport. The event included video highlights of her most iconic matches, testimonials from peers, and a heartfelt speech from Ronda herself. In her speech, Ronda expressed deep gratitude for the fans and wrestlers who had supported her over the years. She spoke openly about the hardships she had endured but emphasized that the love of the fans had kept her going even in the darkest moments. The crowd responded with a standing ovation, a moment of pure validation for a woman who had given so much to the wrestling world. In the months leading up to her passing, Ronda spent more time with her family, reconnecting with her roots in Calgary. It was a bittersweet time filled with reflection on both her achievements and the struggles that had defined her life. Her family recalled how, even in her youth, Ronda had shown extraordinary determination and courage. Now, despite her declining health, she continued to inspire those around her with her resilience and grace. She often spoke about her hopes for the future of women's wrestling, expressing a desire for future generations to experience greater respect and opportunities than she had. As her health worsened, Ronda began to prepare for the end. She sought to make peace with the challenges she had faced, focusing instead on the legacy she would leave behind. Her strength and determination had paved the way for countless female wrestlers who followed in her footsteps. Although the wrestling world could be harsh and unforgiving, Ronda found solace in knowing that her story had helped to create a better path for others. On July 27, 2001, Ronda Singh passed away in Calgary. The news of her death sent shockwaves throughout the wrestling world. Fans and colleagues mourned the loss of a trailblazer whose contributions to the sport had been both significant and underappreciated. Wrestling organizations across the globe paid tribute to her, highlighting her impact on women's wrestling and the legacy she left behind. Wrestlers who had been mentored by Ronda, including some of the biggest names in the industry, spoke out about her kindness, wisdom, and influence. One of the most moving tributes came from Alundra Blaze, who referred to Ronda as a true warrior who had fought not only in the ring, but also against the injustices faced by women in the industry. Blaze shared personal stories of their friendship, emphasizing the deep respect she had for Ronda both as a competitor and as a person. Many others echoed these sentiments, calling attention to the challenges Ronda had overcome and the doors she had opened for future generations. Fans around the world also took to social media and wrestling forums to share their memories of Ronda. They posted clips of her matches, interviews, and fan encounters, celebrating her as both an entertainer and an inspiration. For many, Ronda's story was a reminder of the importance of perseverance, self-acceptance, and staying true to oneself. Though she had faced incredible adversity, she had never given up, and her legacy continued to inspire long after her passing. In the weeks following Ronda's death, wrestling promotions held moments of silence in her honor. Memorial segments aired on wrestling shows, featuring footage of her greatest moments and heartfelt tributes from her peers. These tributes painted a picture of a woman who had defied expectations and made an indelible mark on the industry. While Ronda may not have received the mainstream recognition she deserved during her career, her passing served as a catalyst for renewed discussions about the importance of honoring trailblazers in the sport. Ronda's legacy was further solidified when she was posthumously inducted into several wrestling halls of fame, recognizing her contributions to women's wrestling on a global scale. These honors served as a long overdue acknowledgement of her impact on the industry. Her name became synonymous with strength, perseverance, and the fight for respect in a business that had not always been kind to women. In her final moments, Ronda Singh left behind more than just a career of memorable matches and titles. She left behind a legacy of courage, resilience, and hope, a legacy that continues to inspire those who dream of breaking barriers and achieving greatness against all odds. Her story is one of triumph and tragedy, but most of all, it is a testament to the enduring power of the human spirit. Ronda Singh, the woman behind the unforgettable persona of Bertha Faye, will forever be remembered as a pioneer who gave everything she had to the sport she loved. Ronda Singh's journey, both inspiring and heartbreaking, stands as a testament to the sacrifices and resilience required to achieve greatness in professional wrestling. Her story is one of a woman who fought tirelessly for her place in an industry that often marginalized and disrespected women. Through years of pain, ridicule, and countless setbacks, Ronda refused to be broken. She carved out a legacy that would ultimately change how women's wrestling was perceived, though she paid a heavy price along the way. Throughout her career, Ronda shattered stereotypes by embracing her unique strengths. At a time when women in wrestling were often reduced to either glamorized divas or comedic caricatures, Ronda stood out as a physically dominant force who demanded respect in the ring. Her success as Monster Ripper in Japan's All Japan Women's Pro Wrestling (AJW) elevated her to legendary status among fans of women's wrestling, earning her a reputation as one of the most feared and respected competitors in the sport. These years of intense competition in Japan highlighted her incredible athletic ability and storytelling prowess, helping to legitimize women's wrestling on a global scale. Her time in the World Wrestling Federation, WWF, as Bertha Faye was a more complicated chapter. While she achieved a significant milestone by becoming the WWF Women's Champion, the comedic nature of her character and the body shaming she endured were deeply hurtful. The WWF's creative direction limited her potential, reducing her to a punchline in a system that prioritized male stars. Yet, despite the demeaning treatment, Ronda remained professional and resilient, using every opportunity to connect with fans who saw through the gimmick to the strong, determined woman behind the character. One of the most profound aspects of Ronda's legacy is the way she inspired others to embrace their own authenticity. Fans who struggled with body image and self-esteem found hope in Ronda's story. She taught them that success wasn't about conforming to society's expectations. It was about embracing one's uniqueness and fighting for what truly matters. This message of empowerment became a central part of her legacy, as fans and wrestlers alike credited her with giving them the courage to persevere through their own challenges. Ronda also played a crucial role as a mentor and advocate for younger wrestlers. Having experienced the harsh realities of the wrestling business firsthand, she made it her mission to guide the next generation of performers. She emphasized the importance of mental resilience, self-care, and standing up for one's worth. Wrestlers who trained under or worked alongside her often spoke about how much they had learned from her mentorship. Her kindness, wisdom, and unbreakable spirit left a lasting impact on those who had the privilege of knowing her. Beyond her in-ring achievements, Ronda's story also served as a cautionary tale about the physical and emotional toll of professional wrestling. The lack of health care, financial stability, and support systems for wrestlers during her era contributed to the hardships she faced later in life. Her struggles sparked conversations within the wrestling industry about the need for better treatment of performers, particularly in terms of mental health, injury prevention, and post-career support. While progress has been slow, Ronda's experiences have helped shine a light on these important issues, encouraging promotions to take steps toward improving conditions for current and future talent. Ronda's passing in 2001 was a tragic loss for the wrestling world, but it also marked the beginning of a renewed appreciation for her contributions. As wrestling evolved in the 2000s and 2010s, women's wrestling experienced a resurgence, with more diverse characters and storylines gaining prominence. Promotions such as WWE and AEW began featuring women in main events, giving them opportunities to showcase their skills on par with their male counterparts. Many of the women who led this new era of wrestling cited pioneers, like Ronda Singh, as inspirations. Her legacy continued to resonate in the hearts of fans and performers alike. In the years following her death, Ronda received posthumous honors that further cemented her status as a trailblazer. Wrestling organizations inducted her into various halls of fame, acknowledging her role in advancing women's wrestling. Documentaries and retrospectives highlighted her career, introducing new generations of fans to the remarkable story of a woman who fought against the odds to achieve greatness. These tributes reflected the growing recognition of Ronda's importance to wrestling history. As we reflect on Ronda Singh's life, it becomes clear that her story is not just about wrestling. It is about the universal struggle for acceptance, identity, and respect. Her journey teaches us that true greatness lies not only in accomplishments, but also in the courage to keep going when the world seems determined to hold you back. Ronda faced rejection, ridicule, and hardship with dignity and grace, leaving behind a legacy that will continue to inspire for generations to come. Her final message to fans, conveyed in her last public appearances, was one of hope and resilience. "Never let anyone tell you that you don't belong," she said. "You have the power to create your own destiny. Fight for it, believe in it, and never stop being true to yourself." These words capture the essence of Ronda Singh's legacy. She was more than just a wrestler. She was a symbol of strength, perseverance, and empowerment. Her impact on the world of professional wrestling and on the lives of those who admired her will never be forgotten. Ronda's journey reminds us that no matter the obstacles, the human spirit can rise above and leave a lasting mark on history. In wrestling rings and hearts around the world, Ronda Singh, the woman behind Bertha Faye and Monster Ripper, remains an unforgettable icon. Her legacy continues to inspire those who dream of breaking barriers and achieving greatness against all odds.